All right, guys, so this is a follow-up to the Texas high school shooting that you guys may or may not have heard about because the mainstream media has decided not to talk about it anymore, right? They don't even want to talk about it anymore. For whatever reason, the world may never know. But this story involves Mr. Timothy Simpkins, whom was involved in a fight with another student in a classroom. And after the fight, Mr. Simpkins went and grabbed a gun from his backpack and ended up open firing in the classroom to shoot the student that he was fighting with. Now, that ended up shooting 3 people in total, one teacher and another student who I believe is a girl. They're okay, right, from their injuries. I think the teacher had to go to the hospital. The bullet almost hit his aorta, so he almost died, but, you know, luckily he is okay, or it seems he's gonna be okay. However, the student that he was shooting at, that he was fighting with, it seems that he's in a life-threatening condition. I believe that he is in a coma right now, currently fighting for his life, and if he survives, it seems that, you know, he may face some disabilities for the rest of his life. Really sad story that really just blows my mind that the mainstream media is not talking about, because there's so many different angles to this story and important things in our society that we don't talk about that can be talked about from this story. But because, you know, for whatever reason, the mainstream media doesn't want to cover it, right? And, you know, it's funny because there are some people, I was looking at some commentaries on this story, there's some people that accuse the right of race baiting on this issue, right? Because there's a lot of people saying that, well, you know, the mainstream media is not talking about it because the shooter isn't white. Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the left-wing media are the ones that set up this situation, right? They set up this situation where every time a shooting happens, they look for the person to be white, right? I mean, again, that is what was happening during this, okay? And then when the person turned out not to be white, they stopped covering it. So don't blame the right for pointing out the obvious, which is what the left is telling you, that they're looking for mass shooters to be white, right? So I don't think the right is necessarily race baiting as much as they're just saying, well, the left is telling us that they don't care about this simply because the shooter isn't white, right? So that's my response to people who are accusing the right of race baiting on this. I just think this is an appropriate response considering how the left has driven this narrative that all mass shooters are white, and then when they're not white, magically it's not an issue anymore. But this is actually an issue we need to talk about, because this is a societal issue that affects everybody of all races, okay? And this is why I care about it. But what's even more insane than the left-wing media refusing to cover this story is the fact that this family threw Mr. Timothy Simpkins a welcome home party when he got back home after posting a $75,000 bail one day after committing the school shooting. Yes, that's right. They threw this man a welcome home party, okay? Jeez. And then they posted it on social media. Now, the family is saying that Mr. Simpkins was bullied, right? And that he is a victim and that he's traumatized in the situation. So, you know, if they really believe that, I get why you would want to, you know, do something like this, okay? Because you feel like he didn't really do anything wrong, okay? If that's really how they feel. But I wouldn't be so tone deaf to post a picture like this on social media while the person that he shot, which is a young 15-year-old boy that he got in a fight with, is currently in a coma fighting for his life, okay? Now, speaking of him, his family is speaking out about this, and they're giving a different side and a different story regarding the events that unfolded that led up to this situation. And they're saying that Mr. Simpkins here is not necessarily a victim like the family is trying to claim. Now, I'm going to play the footage of the news clip of that other family explaining their side of the story. And then I'm also going to play Mr. Simpkins and his family explaining you know, their thing as well too, so you guys can see the testimonies side by side. Take a look.
Zacchaeus Selby is 15 years old, and his family tells us he was shot 4 times yesterday at school. They say Selby will undergo another surgery tomorrow morning and is facing a long road to recovery. Tonight, Matt Howerton brings us an update from both families.
We come praying right now, God, for
with hands held,
everyone that has been impacted and influenced.
Family of Timothy Simpkins said a prayer. as they waited for the 18-year-old at the center of the Timberview High School shooting in Arlington to be released from jail in Fort Worth.
This was not someone who was just out to go and shoot up a school.
Simpkins is charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, accused of shooting a 25-year-old teacher.
And late Thursday, we learned a little bit more about that 15-year-old student Simpkins is accused of shooting.
Family identify the student punching Simpkins as Zacchaeus Selby. They say he was shot 4 times after the fight and is facing multiple surgeries. He's in an induced coma right now and on a ventilator. Both Selby and Simpkins' family say the two were feuding and that the school knew about it, yet still allowed them in the same class. Simpkins' attorney went as far to say that the 18-year-old was bullied by Selby and that self-defense will be part of the criminal case. Mansfield ISD still investigating what led up to the fight.
There's this distinction between a mass shooting, a school shooting. These are people who are out to shoot multiple people, and that's not what happened here.
But Selby's family points out their son is 3 years younger and not a bully. Selby's grandmother telling us Simpkins' family is trying to make him sound like a victim. My grandson is in the ICU. He's the victim. In Arlington, I'm Matt Howerton.
He was scared. He was afraid. There's a video that's all out on social media, and it shows that he was being attacked. It wasn't just one person that would attack him and bully him, taking his money, harassing him due to the fact because he had more things than maybe others. It takes us all. It takes us all to stand together about this bullying. It could have been a situation where he took the other turn and decided to commit suicide. What the decision that he made, taking the gun, we're not justifying that. That was not right. But he was trying to protect himself. And so we hope that the police department does the investigation properly. There are going to be independent investigations that's going to be done as well, so that we can get to the bottom of really what happened.
All right, guys, so you see that, you heard that. Both sides have their own testimonies and stories to tell, right? Both sides are claiming victim. Now, the family of Mr. Simpkins is or was trying to have a fundraiser for him, right? They was trying to launch a GoFundMe because he's quote unquote traumatized, and apparently he needs counseling and therapy after that very traumatic experience. Now, GoFundMe wasn't having it, and they removed the page very, very quickly before people could start sending money. But apparently they're allowing the other GoFundMe page of the other victim to stand. So, yeah, both sides here are really claiming victim here. And here's what I really want to talk about. Because honestly, you know, what's the truth of the matter here? What really happened? Well, the answer is probably in the middle, okay? The family of Mr. Timothy Simpkins is saying that he was being bullied, that at one point he had his clothes stripped, and he has possessions taken, he been robbed, and that this is something that's been constantly going on in school, okay? And that Mr. Simpkins was a straight-A student, he's a nerd in the family, you know, he wanted to be an engineer, you know, et cetera, right? So, with that being said, I think that there most likely probably was some back and forth, but I do tend to kind of believe that, you know, this guy, Mr. Simpkins, I do believe that he probably was bullied, right, to a certain extent. And with that being said, this is kind of why I'm pissed off at the media, because the media not covering this story, in my opinion, is enabling more stuff like this to happen. Because if this family had in fact reported that, hey, my child is being bullied to this school, and the school has not done anything about it, they have not, you know, moved the bully out of the classroom or suspended the bully or punished the bully or done everything in their power to stop the bully, then the school should be held accountable. And you know how the school is held accountable? The media has to cover stories like this, okay? But see, they're not going to cover it because they can't get the race angle. And see, this is what pisses me off, because these people claim they care about black people so much. This is an issue that's affecting 2 young black students, right? Bullying happens all across this country. This is an issue that, hey, I would love to see the mainstream media talk about, because a lot of kids experience this in school, right? I experienced bullying when I grew up in school, okay? Everybody kind of went through it. And it's one of those things that, yes, it does lead to situations like this. Again, not excusing it. Obviously, you know, this is not an act of self-defense. And this student, right, he made a mistake, but he should be punished to the full extent of the law, especially considering how apparently after the fight, they both were calmed down. Okay, so it's not like he did it right after the fight or that he ran and got his backpack, during the fight and didn't. No, that's not what happened. They were both calmed down. But he just got up and decided, you know what, I'm just going to finish this off permanently. So, yeah, I mean, he made that conscious decision. He's 18 years old. I'm sorry, he has to be punished to the full extent of the law. There's no excuses for what he did. But I guess what I'm saying is that the media not covering this is really letting a big issue in this country kind of go by the wayside, which is bullying. And the school that enabled this and didn't do anything about it, if this family did in fact report it, they should be punished, right? The administrators should be punished. If anything, I don't know, I would argue that maybe somebody should be fired. Because again, this happens all across the country, guys. There are students who are traumatized by this type of stuff. So, I really do understand the whole bullying angle to this. And again, I'm just pissed off that the media is not talking about it. Okay? Why is it that it has to be a racial angle for the media to actually give a damn about real issues in this country? If there's not a racial angle, they don't care. Okay? Also, what's disturbing is this pattern of behavior that we're seeing that is being rewarded in this country, right? It's already enough that somebody like him got out, posted bail for $75,000 one day after committing such a heinous crime like this. But that also comes as you have other stories about how in Chicago there was a gang shooting and all the charges were dropped against the people that participated in it. Dropped. No charges. These people are walking free. Gang members shooting, showing violent tendencies, walking free. You had that story out in New York where there was charges dropped against hundreds of people that was rioting, looting, and destroying businesses in New York City during the BLM riots. They dropped the charges. Dropped them. Got away with it. Scot-free. Again, all last year, you had people getting bailed out. Money being raised to bail out people that are rioting and looting. So now we're living in 2021 where we have our society rewarding bad behavior. People are just getting off. People who've shown to be violent, that have tendencies that are harmful to society, they're just getting off, letting them back on the streets for them to continue to commit crimes. And I'm not saying this guy, Mr. Simpkins, that he's one of those people. He doesn't seem to have had those tendencies before this, okay? If he was a straight A student, if he wanted to be an engineer like his family said, hey, I tend to do believe that, right? Because, those students that, tend to be smarter, that tend to be, kind of ahead of the curve, that have a little bit more in life, they do tend to get bullied in school. But I think, one thing about that people got to realize, and again, this is why I wish the mainstream media would bring attention to this, is that, a lot of these people that bully kids in school, they end up being nobodies, right? They end up being nobodies. And I think what could have helped out somebody like him is if, he had a father in his life and his father apparently was murdered, okay? So that's the reason why he doesn't have a father. But if he would have had somebody, a role model to tell him, like, listen, these bullies, most likely they're going to end up being nothing. You're a straight A student. You want to be an engineer. You're going to win this in the long run. Because 20, 30 years from now, you're going to be well off with your family, with your kids. You have a nice house. You're going to have a lot of money. And these people are going to be bums. Right? That's how it happens every single time. Every bully that I've known in school is a bum right now. Right? They're bums. Okay? But again, that's the type of stuff and the type of awareness that could have been raised about issues like this. But it's not going to happen because the media doesn't want to talk about it. So instead, we have this issue of bullying that's going unaddressed. And then also on top of that, we have this pattern of behavior in which you have people committing crimes like this that are just getting off scotch-free. Right? Not necessarily scotch-free, but they're not getting the book thrown at them. Okay? They're not getting the punishments that they deserve. And this is happening all across the country. And it is sad that this is the state that we're in. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.